What is going on, YouTube-averse? John Stanek from Johnny Radio here, bringing you another Viva La Vinyl classic album review. And guys, it does not get much more classic than this. The 1971 masterpiece, Bryter Layter by Nick Drake. Just one of the greatest singer-songwriters of all time. And this is personally my favorite album of his, even though it's tough because I love Pink Moon, the album that came after this, and sadly would be his last, right before he committed suicide. And, you know, gosh, this is one of those artists that he didn't really see the fruits of his labor until many years after his death. You saw kind of a resurgence of his music in films in the early 2000s, like Serendipity, The Royal Tenenbaums, Garden State, which I love all of those movies. And I think it was Garden State, the one that I heard One of These Things first, which makes sense to hear that first. But my God, what a beautiful song that has just the feel of like Vince Guaraldi jazz music on the piano mixed with this just lush acoustic guitar, and the arrangement is just so like understated, but it feels so full. And then Nick Drake, nobody sounds like this guy vocally. He just has such a just warm, inviting, calming, soothing voice that I don't know how he didn't become huge when this album dropped back in 1971, but it just goes to show whether it's today or the 70s, you know, sometimes some of the greatest artists ever don't get their due when they deserve it. But yeah, One of These Things first is beautiful, but if you start with the very first track on this album, which is just called Introduction, and it's simply an instrumental that's around 2 minutes long, but just from that arpeggiated acoustic guitar riff, which is just so gorgeous, and then these strings come in, I can never get out of my mind. I listened to this album a lot when I was out in Wyoming years back, and it was a trip that was just me and nature, which was beautiful. But the pairing of this, especially watching the sunrise with the Grand Teton Mountains behind me, it was just something that I'll never get out of my head. And every time I hear that song, it brings me back to that moment. So amazing. So I have like an emotional attachment to this album, if that makes sense. But there's just so many great songs on here. You've got Hazy Jane 2, which is possibly his most upbeat song. Like, I would say his most upbeat album probably overall, and it's my favorite. I think I already mentioned that, but not just for that reason. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that as much as I love Pink Moon and the fact that it's just him and an acoustic guitar, some of the arrangements on here are just gorgeous, especially Northern Sky, which features John Cale on piano, organ, and the Celeste, which is an aptly titled instrument because it just gives this kind of celestial, heavenly sound. It makes you feel like you're flying over something. And Northern Sky, I just think, is one of the most beautiful songs of all time, which was used in Serendipity to great effect in that film. Another one that I mentioned the film of, from Royal Tenenbaums, Fly. Really cool song with like this harpsichord, very British sounding song, and it fits perfectly in that film as well. Just so many great tracks on here. At the Chime of a City Clock is a really cool song too, and how it uses the string instrumental from Introduction in that. Very cool. I could go on and on about every single song on here, but it's just one of these albums that, you know, it's perfectly paced, 40 minutes and it's done, and you just want to go back and listen to it over again. But for those of you who don't know Nick Drake's music, this is kind of the perfect starting point, I feel. This was my introduction to him, like I said, from the Garden State record, which is a great soundtrack, by the way. But all of his music from the few albums that we had from his life are just so amazing. And it's so sad to me, the story of Nick Drake, once you like read more about how, you know, he wasn't reaching the heights that he wanted to go on, and he had depression and took drugs for it, and ended up just not being able to deal with life. And there's just certain people in this world that, you know, just can't quite make it through. And a lot of these true artists that are just creating some of the most beautiful music ever made, they just need to be told on a regular basis how much that they mean to other human beings. I think that maybe would have kept him going. But he was a very private guy, very shy. Even when he played shows, he didn't really look up at people. Just, I mean, talk about introverted. Like, he was the ultimate example of that. But thank God that his music persevered through the years, even after his death, and reached different generations so that we could just listen and love his music, because it is glorious. Especially, like, if I had to pick my two favorites, that's tough, but definitely Northern Sky and Introduction means so much to me. But of course, One of These Things First also is magnificent. But yeah, if I had to give this a grade, I give it a very strong 9 out of 10. Absolute classic. Gotta have it in your collection. And guys, this just happens to be a very early 70s singer-songwriter week, because this Friday I'm going to be doing my top 5 blue songs, the Joni Mitchell album. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be a hard one to whittle down to my top 5, because I love every single song on that record as well. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. We got top 5s every Friday, album reviews. Thank you. And as always, Viva la vinyl. So guys, thanks so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and be sure to ring the bell for notifications so you can always see great quality content like you're seeing on the screen right now. Thank you so much for supporting Johnny Radio, and I'll see you soon.